Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Digital ATDN's Digital Learning Day. Thank you for joining us today to refine and continue to develop digital learning skills, strategies, and resources that we can use to implement at your agency. My name is Jose Adorno. I am the Digital Learning Coordinator at Advance. I'm also joined by Amy Ferrari, ATDN Coordinator. We will be your moderators for today. All our sessions will be recorded, and the materials shared by our presenters will be available after the conference via email. Please put in the chat any questions or comments during the presentation to get them to the presenters. This session will also be using reaction, so if you need to raise your hand or react to the chat, you could do that as well. Also, everything shared today will also be available as topics for tech support. So if you need help accessing the resource, looking for a tutorial, brainstorming ideas or strategies and implementation, Digital A3N is the place to go. And the best of all, it's free. I'm excited to share today's fourth session, Digital as a Second Language, Engaging English Learners in Skill Development and Inclusivity. Our presenter is an educational consultant, evaluator, and trainer at Reconnection Company. She participated in a coffee talk in Links where we met, and she will be sharing more on that with us today. I introduce you to Lacey Wise. Thank you so much for presenting for us today.
My pleasure. I'm looking forward to this, and I usually try to do what I teach, and I try to teach people to take time to reflect, because in our dominant American business society, it's all about get everything said, do it fast, and compete and get it done. And I try to say, especially with ESL or second language learners or foreign language learners, English language learners who don't speak English as a native language, we have cultures represented that really thrive on collaboration and on reflection. But when these sessions are so short, I don't want to do what I hate to hear others do, but I might just start talking too fast, and so stop me if I'm going too fast. I'll try to give you time to reflect, and I certainly do invite you to participate in the meeting chat. You know how to open that, and if not, raise your hand and let us know. But I hope that you'll participate in the chat, and hopefully I'll keep in touch or hear when you have a question if I don't catch it, so that we have an interactive session. And I hope that today we're going to have fun. I plan to have fun, and I believe in having fun. And I'll do more with that as we go along. Let me see why I'm not sharing my screen. Share screen, desktop. Okay, there we go. So let's get started. Starting with the agenda, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself in a minute in an application called Padlet. And more so that you become familiar with it, Padlet is something that is very easy to use, and hopefully you'll be able to use it with students. And there are other boards like that. And if you know of one that does that kind of thing, and if you use it with students, just enter that into the chat box, because I'm hoping that today, in the short time we have, you'll be sharing your own resources as well as taking advantage of mine. So we'll just be doing an overview of resources. There are so many resources, and you'll see that in today's PowerPoint slides. I'm going to be showing you one or two of a certain sort, but I have added a lot of others, because you're going to get a copy of this presentation as a PDF that has the links. And I hope that you'll take it home and further explore the other links that also relate to the objectives that we're going through in a few minutes. So we're going to be doing covering resources that relate to speaking and pronunciation, and of course, listening, reading, writing, and problem solving. And of course, they are all interrelated, but I'm going to focus on each one of those, and you can then be very creative in how you use it with your students. Hopefully, you'll also keep in mind the extent to which you can engage learners with special needs, provide equitable, not necessarily equal, but equitable instruction, and put those in the chart. So if you think, oh, I know how I can use that, put it in there and let's have an interactive session as we go along. And at the end, if we have time, if I don't have too much, we'll do comments. But I don't think we'll have a lot of time for that. Hopefully we'll do the interaction before. And as I said, I believe in having fun. And I have experience with that because I know that for all the years that I taught English as a second language, as we called it at the El Paso Community College, that my students learned a lot more. They paid attention, they had more fun, they learned more when we were laughing. And it doesn't mean laughing the whole time, but maybe having little incidents of humor to catch their attention. So I believe in that. And I got this research and there's a lot of it there, but keep in mind that laughter increases memory, motivation, and attention. I'll let you read through that. I'll also open my chat just in case. Okay. So today's objectives are the following. We're going to explore resources to encourage speaking, listening, and pronunciation, and then reinforce reading and writing skills. And I always think that we don't do enough in ESL to help people problem solve in English. And I'll give you an example of that when we go along with one student that really helped me realize that. And also, as I said, we're going to contribute ideas on equitable, differentiated, and culturally relevant. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with Edward Hall and his, he's an American anthropologist, and I strongly emphasize his extremes of culture, which as context or low context and high context people. So we'll do more of that as we go along. So I'm going to ask you to go to this, and Jose is going to put that into the chat for you, or you can use the QR code and introduce yourself. When you open that window, and I'll show you because I'm going to join you there, you'll notice a plus sign at the bottom. Click that. It'll open a window where I'd like for you to enter your name, where you work, your role in education. I assume that most of us are teachers. And the last thing is important because that sometimes gets us talking, something that we might never suspect about you upon first meeting you. And you're welcome to comment on someone else's post. We're not going to spend a lot of time in introductions because I just want you to experience the Padlet and then also just start to become acquainted with one another. So hopefully you are seeing that I've introduced myself, and if you would be so kind, introduce yourself and just add something that will help us get to know one another a little better. And if you're having any trouble finding it, just let us know. It looks like we have several people. Risa. Wow. Computer programmer for NASDAQ. I saw. 16 years. That'll get you experience. I've traveled through Europe, Asia, Africa. Well, you live with your Maasai family. I've been to Tanzania. Let's see, Jose. Yes. A New Britain adult education where I wore many hats. Okay. You've lived in 4 different countries, Joanna. Wow. Oh, you're a Canadian. Good. Okay. So hopefully, and there's Amy Farmington, continuing education. We have Farmington, New Mexico. I assume that that's not Farmington, New Mexico. And that's just down the road from me, about 75 miles. And so you can just keep scrolling down that and hopefully get to know each other a little better. "13 trail running races in Connecticut." Wow, hats off, Erica. So your family is from Portugal, Nasreen. Você fala português? Eu sou do Brasil.
Ah, eu falo português também.
Olha, então,
Uhum.
bem-vinda. Mas fazem muitos anos que eu não vou para o Brasil. Mas eu tenho Facebook, eu falo muito com amigos que eu conheci quando era muito jovem. Já não sou jovem. Okay, well, I'm not Portuguese. Okay. Well, hopefully. Okay, so in the chat, if you would be so kind, you might just put an idea or two on how you might use this with your second language students, and we'll go back to our presentation. So feel free to go into the chat and just add ideas on whether you use similar tools or plan to use something like this among students, because our students don't write enough in conversation. And this allows them to actually interact, although it's a writing thing. Okay, share their journey. Why not? So how do they compare? I don't know about Jamboard. Yeah, and that's a good interaction. Way back when, I was teaching before the internet. And when I found out about the internet, I thought that I was in another planet. It was just, this can't be true. People can actually talk. And this was before the internet had visuals, which was Web 2.0. So I went to the lab and immediately signed up all of my students, and I had over 100. I signed up all my students with email accounts, and our class that day was everybody went to the lab and started talking to each other through email. It was just a magical experience, like out of world, like AI is now. So, okay. So let's get started. And thank you for contributing ideas in the chat. That's always helpful. So our first part is to discuss speaking, listening, and pronunciation. And keep in mind that, as I said, I'm going to give you a lot of links here, but I'm just going to go through a few. I believe in humor, as I've already noticed, as you've already noticed, and we already discussed. The man who developed this make-believe comics is a member of Links, which is our adult education national program. I'm going to give you a slide at the end, but he consistently encourages adult ed people to, teachers to use make-believe comics. And I've used him for years, way back when. And he just had this little teeny comic site. And now, as I'm going to show you, it has exploded. And I hope you can see that. If you can't, let me know, okay? So you can see up here, you have Home Create Comics. And I'm just going to let you read some of these. And help for students. So you have comics for LGBTQ, mental health issues, racism. Look at that. That is so amazing. And he continues to explode resources here. And if you keep going way at the end, look at that, ESL support. So I hope that you'll be able to, and as Jose put this up, you'll also get that when you access this presentation. And I have a packet that also includes a lot more detail on these resources. But look at that, ESL prompts and refugee. So create, there's a tutorial. And as you can see, let me go back to that. See these, you can decide how many of those you want and then create. And there are a bunch of different characters. You can use bubbles of any kind. You put in and I think students should be using these, and then they can share with one another. But teach them, show them a comic, and then have them go in and create their own, and they can choose animals or bugs or people and different kinds of backgrounds, and it's just a lot of fun. So hopefully that'll encourage you to help students laugh with one another and with you. I'm not going to go through each of these, but do you have any comic sites that you want to share? If you do, just let us see those and we'll share more. Or if you use humor in a classroom, how do you do that? So let's go to our next one. Now, those of you, all of us who work in adult ed, know, excuse me, how difficult political cartoons are, and whether they're native speakers taking the GED test. The GED test, at least used to, when I got GED, use political cartoons and have students comment on them. So I would encourage you to use humor, but also for native speakers to get used to how the humor works in political cartoons. And there's a lot of sarcasm that goes back and forth. And sarcasm is not something a lot of our students are familiar with. So it would be good to teach them. So please be sure to continue with that. The next thing is jazz chanting. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with Carolyn Graham. but she developed what she called jazz chants. So jazz chants, she tries to relate jazz chants to the rhythm of English, which she considers to be important. So I'm going to just comment on that. I had a student, I was teaching literacy. I taught literacy to native speakers, but also to non-native speakers. And we know that you learn how to read better in your own language and faster in your own language and then learn English. But when I tried to tell my students that, no, we don't want to learn how to read in Spanish. We want to learn how to read it. We want to learn English. So I'd say, okay, we're going to take a longer time doing that, but let's learn English. And so I was aware that my students were not being understood, not because they couldn't pronounce the words, but because they didn't have the rhythm. And jazz chants offers that opportunity. So I had a student that I took to have some coffee as we were going through the materials in the restaurant. And I taught her how to say exactly, I'd like a cup of coffee, please. I'd like a cup of coffee, please. I'd like a cup of coffee, please. So we got to the restaurant, the waitress came in and I told her I'd like some coffee. And she said, what does she want? And I said, well, ask her. And my student said, I'd like a cup of coffee, please. Perfectly. The waitress looked at me and said, what did she say? All to say that expectations have a lot to do with how we are understood. So jazz chants, I'll let you see an example if you're not familiar with it. But the way I taught them is I'd go through the words and then we do the rhythm and they do their desk and I do my desk. And then I'd have them take turns because it's all in two parts. Most of these jazz chants have two groups. So they would divide in groups and then they'd play. So here's an example of this Carolyn Graham doing a jazz chant. I wonder why that's taking so long. Let me go back and do this one. Come on, Carolyn.
Who did you see? I saw John. John who? John Brown. I can't hear you. I said, John Brown. I can't hear you. I said, John Brown. I can't hear you. I said, John Brown. I said, John Brown, John Brown, John Brown. What did he say? Who? John Brown. John Brown? Yes, what did he say? He didn't say anything. Nothing? Not a word. I don't believe it.
So anyway, you get the idea. And I had now one thing about using humor and games and this kind of activity with classes is not to do it for very long because they get bored. And the last thing you want is students to get bored. But maybe do it for 5 minutes and then next time do it a little more. So have any of you used jazz chants? I don't see that you have. Well, I invite you to have that experience. Okay, Pamela. So do some very simple ones. They're very simple jazz chants that can be used. For some reason, this isn't working. Okay, and just start baby steps. And remember that baby steps go a long way to creating confidence. So poetry and pronunciation work so well to helping students get not only the rhythm, but the pronunciation of English. And as you can see at this site, and I'm not going to take you there, you can have students recite in class, find the rhyme in poetry, fill in missing words, write a new verse. And I don't know if you're familiar with, why am I isn't showing the whole thing? Okay, if you're familiar with Google's, but if you go to Google and use it and you go how to pronounce, if you say how to pronounce engineer, it'll come up and you click on that and it immediately says the word and you can say it slowly or not. Or if you Google words that rhyme with something, you can immediately, well, I'll show you. Let's go to Google and I'll say pronounce engineer. And there it is.
Engineer. Engineer.
I'm going to slow it down.
Engineer. Engineer.
And the other one I noticed that is words that rhyme with hat. And a whole bunch of stuff comes out. So your students can really find words, they can explore words, find out what they are, write poetry with it, or substitute as the example, like if you hear. Oh, and you also can put what is in Google, you put what is, like what is engineer, and it'll give you a dictionary definition for it. So here's an example from this site of what they suggest. Pick out a rhyme and then change the rhyming words. So there was an old woman who lived in a hat, and then about that. And they can then create their own poetry. And this is such a good activity to do in groups. And as I so often suggest, many of our students, especially in ESL, in second language learning, are collaborative. And group work is great for this kind of activity. They're having fun, they're learning how to rhyme, and they're enjoying it as a group, which is what many prefer to do. So I found out, at first I used to hate to work in groups. Why? Because I was not in control as a teacher. And I felt, oh, they get, some of them work, some of them don't. It's like, I hate group work. And then I decided that if I had some rules for working with groups, that group work went a lot faster and a lot better. So since I'm encouraging you to use group work, discuss group behaviors and expectations. You know, you get people together, they don't know what you expect. Is it just that they talk? Or what are they supposed to do? I suggest that you assign group members so that they don't get together with the same group all the time, with the same friends. I suggest that, and this is important, time the activity and stick to it. So I'd give my students the assignment, I'd explain what they were expected to do, how I was going to observe them, and if they were going to be graded on it, I'd let them know what they were going to be graded on or observed on. And then I'd say, okay, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. And when 5 minutes, I say, okay, are you ready? Here we go. 5 minutes, start now. And then Barry would say, oh, teacher, no. Oh, my teacher, no, we don't. And 5 minutes, it's now 4 minutes. and then they'd get to work. Well, after the first 2 or 3 times, when I said it's time to do group work, and they were ready to do it, and the assignment was there, and I'd say, okay, start, boom, they started. And I learned to love group work, and I hope that you encourage your students to do that as well. So define the purpose, let them know if they're solving a problem, if they're role playing. I want you to take role, I want you to be the leader this time, or complete a project, and share that purpose with students so they know what they're being observed on. Okay. Poetry and pronunciation, Google Docs. In Google Docs, and I'm not going to take you there because that takes time, but you can go to tools and select under tools, voice typing, and students can then dictate whatever they want, and Google Docs will write what they're dictating. And what's interesting is for students, if they don't see what they're wanting to see, they can work on pronunciation because what they're saying is being typed by Google. It's a very simple little tool. Google also, if you download an application, can read what is being said. So it does both things. There's another site there, TTS Reader, type and have it read. It's free. Audacity is a great tool. It's free and very powerful tool for recording and then sharing the recordings, and students can hear themselves. I like to have them, for instance, practice this script for an interview, or you're the doctor and you're the patient, go practice that. So they have fun with their looking at what they are producing on their own. The Google pronunciation I just showed you, and this is a very fun, it's called Voki, and it's free as long as you don't have more than 3. I mean, it's free if you don't have more than 3. I just taught you a rhyme. So I just create a new one and I delete the old one and I keep my free account. But like, and sometimes I have a voice condition, so I always do, I have them record the section rather than my recording it. But I encourage you to have students go in and record themselves. And there are so many different characters. This is a person, but you can have bugs, you can have animals of all sorts, different voices. You can have, over here you can see, you can have different backgrounds, you can have different hair color or clothes. You can completely create, or students can completely create their own. So here's Maricela.
I am an ESL student. I am learning to speak English. I know how to greet people and start a conversation. For example, I know how to say, hello. How are you? What's your name? Where do you live? Do you speak other languages? What is your favorite hobby? I also know how to count from 1 to 1 million. I know how to add.
Okay, so that's an example of the kinds of things that you can produce. Let me see if I can bring that up. Go back. And I was a moderator for Reading and Writing with Links. And so I posted, and you can take these and email them to people. Students can email it to each other, to you, if you decide you want to grade them. And I use this voice because this looks like such a hefty dog, but I chose this voice.
Greetings all. You are invited to create a Voki and share it in our community. Reading and writing are essential skills for humans that need to be taken lightly, not seriously.
So that's Voki. And I encourage you to go there and to, and for your students, because these are resources for teachers, but for teachers to use with students, because because we learn what we teach. How often do we allow students to teach themselves and others? So these resources, I hope, will be used by students, not only teachers. One of the things that I think is very helpful in helping students learn English in conversation is surveying. And I used to have my colleagues at the college participate, and I say, my students are going to call you this week for a 5-minute survey. They're going to ask you some questions. So it won't take very long, and just act like normal and let them use. So they'll call you, and then I'd have students report on their conversations, come back, write the conversation, and report. I think surveying is fun, and I'd also have them survey call businesses or call a doctor's office and see if they could make an appointment and then cancel the appointment. I know that's, not too fair to doctors, but doctors have receptionists, and I figure they could help. They could help. So I encourage you to use surveys and have students complete surveys. And one of the surveys, I also believe in using career information. I don't know if you're familiar with Holland, but Holland's career preferences is he has 6 types, and my students used to love to discuss types because you're usually 1 or 2, and they're like artistic types who are very creative, or they're they call them realistic types, or they call who are very investigative types. Like those, the investigative type likes to have things quick and well explained. The artistic types likes to discover ways to do things. And once they found out who they were, and then Holland matches those to actual career types. And I developed a survey, and when you get this, if you go there, you can see Excel is one of my favorite MS Office applications. So if you go there, and you can go to Holland, and you can see I have instructions there, and occupational preferences, and so have students put the names of the people they are surveying. And I did this with students surveying other students about their personality types. And then Excel has this wonderful little gadget here that's called comments. Now, if you're using it off, this is in Google, but if you use it in your own, then it won't show the author there. So realistic people like to work with their hands. They like tools. Artistic people like to create things like music, paintings. They do not like rules. They want to create. So students would survey one another and put it into Excel. And then Excel has this wonderful feature that I'll just show you very quickly. You can take the results and then you can create an instant chart. Not showing me the choice there. Okay. The instant choice of making a chart. Immediate. And then you can take this chart and change the colors and so forth, just as you saw a while ago. But it's a wonderful way for students to talk to one another, to get information about one another. And when I used to do that, even when I would take the descriptions, and even with my early beginning level students, they could understand, like realistic, work with hands. And so they would interview each other and have more fun. And I'd have students say, no wonder my daughter doesn't understand me, or my husband, no wonder he gets mad at me. We communicate differently. So this is Holland is a wonderful way to get workplace into the picture. I'm not going to go into these jokes, joke sites, but when you use jokes, and I strongly believe you should, because our students need to understand our humor. But be careful when you send students to go look at these jokes, because some of these joke sites are pornographic and have a lot of pornography in it. So I suggest that you go and really examine these sites before you send students to come and bring a joke to class next time. Okay. So let's go to practice reading and writing, vocabulary development, contextual. And I'm going to go fast through here. Quizlet, I'll go fast through Quizlet because it is such a fantastic site. You can, and this I was teaching teachers how to work with the body because they had to teach students working on CNA. But you create flashcards. You see how they can practice, and you can click here.
The range of degrees through which a joint can move. Range of motion.
Then you go to learn. And with learn, they have to click the right, choose the right answer to the question. And then under test, they can test themselves on the terminology, true and false, start test. And then they have all sorts of tests that they choose. And then down here, they have to give the definition and then match. So let's say degrees, measurement. And when they match it, it disappears. And then this is new. It's called QChat. And this is artificial intelligence in Quizlet. And you can actually interact. Students can interact. They can say, next question, I don't know. Give me the answer. And really interact on the terminology that you're helping. Now, yes, have students use, you develop one and show them how it works. And then my suggestion is have them go and they develop their own flashcards for interesting things that they want or that you assign them to. Don't click on here unless you want to be, if you want to go free rice game, you'll get addicted. That's you, it's all vocabulary and you have to learn vocabulary in categories, different levels. And really that free rice is actually delivered as a result of people using this. And because you can do it at different levels, you can have very beginning vocabulary or more advanced, etc. And then this site, I suggest, if you want to see how Excel is used, and this is an old site, but it shows you how to use Excel for learning fraction, all sorts of things. And students can have a ball working with some of these. Loan puzzle, you can do, this is a loan puzzle that I created, and you can see that I used, well, I can't get to the, Anyway, you can use you go up here and see that little comment that I told you about in Excel. You can put your down and across, and once the students fill it in, you can then do the puzzle answer. So show them how to do the puzzles and then have them create puzzles on vocabulary that you're interested in. So this is something, and I know we're getting close to the end here. So in chat, I'd like for you to contribute ideas. This is, you know how we talk about teaching grammar, like dependent clauses and conditional clauses and coordinating conjunctions and prepositional phrases and all of this, how to punctuate them. All of that's grammar. So why not think about these occupations and think about the type of language used in science texts, in math, in history. So think about right now, reflect a little bit on that. And my suggestion is, instead of teaching dependent clauses out of context, what, like general science is full of if clauses. If this happens, that happens. So those, give them scientific text that uses the kind of grammar and sentence construction that you want. And then they're learning the science and they're learning the structure. Math is full of terms and comparisons and equations and processes and measures. History, well, of course, past tense. We have problems getting our students to write the third person singular with an S in a present tense. We'll give them history information where they can practice using the S at the end of third person singular. Geography is full of question words, prepositions of place, descriptions, health and medicine instructions, labels. Poetry is full of adjectives and adverbs, weather, future tense, and predictability, and so forth. And I put OER, I don't know why I put that there, except that if you go to OER Commons, you can find a whole bunch of open material that you can use for text in teaching grammar within the language of these different occupations. So I assume that, okay, Jose, 15-minute warning, thank you. All right. So, problem solving, riddles, games, quizzes, math problems, conflict. Riddles are so much fun, and you can put them in groups to do these. What has to be broken before you can use it? An egg. What can you hold in your left but not in your right? Your other elbow. What has teeth? I bet you know that one. A comb. If it takes 5 elves 5 minutes to make $5, and how long would it take 100 elves to make $100? Well, 5 minutes. Anyway, if they work within these riddles, they can do a lot of problem solving and also be laughing the whole time. Games template for Jeopardy is in PowerPoint. So you can, I believe, and at the end of each lesson, you review what you've done. And at the start of each lesson, you review what was done and still needed to be done. And one way to do that is Jeopardy. My students love to play charades. I do it for maybe 6 or 7 minutes. And the students who never talked in class were the ones that were most active and willing to be clowns in front of everybody else. Quizzes, there are a lot of quizzes that they can take and just play on their own. So if you go to the United States, look at the quizzes that are on here, and they can learn how to play, take 50 states, and the name of the state comes up. So I have to find Montana. So they click on Montana, and it's a good way to practice geography. They can bring you into their own countries and play with that, and so forth. And here are other links that you can use. Career terminology quizzes, huh? And then math and logic puzzles. If you go to AI or to Chat GPT and say, write a word problem with 172 and 5, and they come up with the most fantastic problems. Students can go in there on AI, and I think your state is going to provide you, Jose, and anyway, are going to provide you with instructions on AI. And I am so excited about AI, and more so than I am afraid of it. So here are some things you can do with it. Google Maps. I'm not going to have time to go in and show you, but if you go to Google Maps and right-click on a dot, and then say measure, you can measure from dot to dot, and students go in there and learn how to explain how the distances, the measurements in English. Also in Google Maps, you can go in and have them do instructions. Like if I'm going to Albuquerque and I want to know how to get to one place or another, I just put give me directions, and the language of the directions that Google Maps provides, like go right, merge into all those that terminology used for directions is in Google, and you can use Google Maps. Also, I provided you here with Google Earth projects, and they are fantastic. And I'm just going to quickly take you there. So this is just one example of things you can do on Google Earth, and projects that you can identify important locations in story history, show the timeline of a person's life, relive a trip,
Excuse me, you're
stay
not
in
sharing
the
the
life
screen.
of a project, etc.
Can you hear me? We only see you right now. We don't see the screen.
You didn't see that?
No, that
Oh,
last part, no.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
That's okay.
I forgot to take myself off. Okay. So you see the screen, or you don't see the screen. Yeah. Let me see how I get out of here. Let me get back. Okay. Well, I've lost my, I'm in chat. I did this yesterday, and I can't get back.
Try the control up and see if that shows you that window.
No, it doesn't. So, I guess you're seeing me, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to, as long as you're seeing me, I can't see. Oh, there you are. I see. Okay. So let me go quickly share screen. Great.
There we go.
Now you should be seeing me. Okay, so you have a copy of this, and you can use all of these, and I have a packet that also goes in detail. The last part of this was just, let me just quickly mention this since I have maybe 5 minutes. One of my students, I went to, I was in El Paso, and I walked into an electric company, and I saw a student that I had graduated. She went through, she got her degree. And she was working in this electric company. I said, "How are you, Marisela? So good to see you." And I said, how do you feel working? And she said, "Oh, Ms. Wise, I'm fine until somebody gets angry at me." And of course, I'm working in an electric company and everybody's complaining about something. And she says, "When they get mad at me, I freeze. And so I have to go find somebody because I do not know how to act when somebody's being angry at me." And so I think as teachers of students of other languages, we need to use communication skills. And some of my favorite are active listening, empathetic listening, and critical listening. Active listening is just the person is really, "I don't know what happened, that the bill is way over what it should be. And I'm so frustrated. And the answer is, "Okay, I hear you. You're very upset because you say that we're not listening to you and that you're having this problem and for a long time. And let's deal with that." Empathetic listening is, I can see how frustrated you are and I don't blame you. And critical listening is, if I were in your place, I know how you would feel. The kinds of communication skills that are required to deal with conflict, I never taught. I told my student, "I am sorry I never taught you that." So I really encourage you to include those in your teaching somewhere along the line and to provide, I love this, instead of providing equal access, provide equitable access. And one of my teachers said, "Why don't we just take down the fence?" Well, that's a good idea too. Take down the fence. So I encourage you to use the ELP standards, which are so used, or other standards that you like, in developing lessons. And AI can really help you, by the way, to, if you put in an activity and say, match it to ELP standards, it'll do that for you. And I won't go into that very much. I strongly encourage you to join the LINKS community in order to communicate with. And notice one of these is English as a English language acquisition, and the resources on LINKS are just wonderful. And I have that community links.ed URL there. Everything you have from me is always open, and you can access all of these resources that I shared today at this URL, which I think Jose is putting into the chat.
Yes, Jose will get that information into the chat, and we'll get all of this, including the presentation itself and the recording, out to everybody as well. Any questions for Lisi?
It's been a pleasure working with you today. And I'm sorry, I knew I was going to go faster. I give this presentation usually in a lot longer time. And I found myself going, "Oh, but I need to tell them that. I need to tell them that." So I hope you at least have a taste of what's out there, and that you provide the variety that represents equitable instruction in second language learning, but also have fun, have fun, have fun.